My name is Savannah Columbia, and I'm an Extension Associate in the college's Ag Econ department, and I also work with UK Center for Crop Diversification. So this is our third webinar series here with Bourbon County, and I hope you have been able to take away some good information from both Brett and Camille over the past 2 weeks. And I just want to put another plug in that these presentations are made possible by the Specialty Crop Block Grant funding that we received. So let's dig in. So the goal for today is to provide you with information about various methods of payment you may want to accept from consumers in your marketing channels. And with each of these payment methods, we will talk about why it can be beneficial for you to accept them. If you don't already, maybe you're in between a few different payment methods, thinking about adding a new one. So we're gonna explore some of that, but it is cleverly where we got the title, Accepting More Than Just Cash. So to get us thinking and to kind of preface this conversation, I want to start out with 2 questions. These questions just get us thinking a little bit about where we are as producers in our marketing channels and what we like or don't like about various payment methods that are out there. So what types of payment methods do you accept? Maybe this is cash, maybe it's cash and cards with the card reader, or maybe it's just cards because that is your preference. Feel free to answer these in the chat if you feel so inclined, or just in your head silently. This just helps us preface what we do accept as payment methods before exploring the idea of what we could accept as payment and what we are comfortable with kind of adding to our system and things like that. So let's ponder on this for a few more seconds, and then we will move forward. All right, so the popular forms of payment, you can see them here, the most common ones. A lot of these are ones you will be familiar with. You may use multiple of these, maybe just one. As you may assume, cash and card or credit or debit cards are common forms of payment methods for most producers. But that is followed by EBT and SNAP benefits, gift cards, and other e-commerce sites. So we will go through each of these together this evening. So feel free to add any comments or questions in the chat. I can't always see them, as they come in, but we can definitely have time for Q&A at the end. So let's get started with the first one, which is cash. So the great thing about cash is that it's pretty easy for sellers to track and exchange back and forth with their customers. You aren't obligated to purchase any additional technology or pay service fees to companies to accept cash as a form of payment. However, cash use is on the decline. A lot of people are refraining from carrying cash anymore. I am one of those people. Statistics say about 16% of consumers always carry cash, but if you're thinking about that, like that's less than a quarter. A quarter is 25%. Less than a quarter of your consumers are carrying cash with them all the time. Not to say that they're not also carrying another payment method, but that statistic is solely about just cash. So on top of that, younger adults are even less likely to carry cash. So if you're only accepting cash as a payment method, you could be missing out on potential customers. And that's kind of the viewpoint that we are looking at here tonight, is like, could these payment methods broaden the range of potential customers. So we want to really keep that thought in mind. So, like we talked about on our last slide, cash use is on the decline, mostly because technology has made it easier for people to avoid carrying cash and change around with them in their pockets. It's bulky and people don't love it anymore. So people just are avoiding carrying cash. And it's easy for us to swipe our little cards than it is to carry exact change for everything we might need when we go somewhere. So not to say that cash is not still an acceptable form of payment, but we want to be sure to think about all the ways to capture our potential customers. So to do or not to do. Like I said, cash is still a perfectly okay form of payment to use. And we don't want to alienate our cash carrying customers. If we have customers that just carry cash, we don't want to not welcome them or accept their payment because it's not card. So those customers are also often loyal customers and come to the market with your product in mind. When they think about how much money they're going to bring to the market that day, they'll be like, oh, I'm going to stop at vendor A and vendor B, and I need this much money. So we don't want to exclude them by not accepting cash, but we want to think about accepting more than just cash so we can reach consumers of other payment types. So in summary, for cash, technology has made it very easy for consumers to tap and swipe. We should really take that into consideration when thinking about our acceptable forms of payment. We want to reach as many potential consumers, within moderation. So accepting cash and non-cash payments might be helpful for your business. But now we will move into some of the electronic forms of payment that have emerged with the technology that we talk about. So before we get into credit and debit cards, I wanted to take a second and address a form of payment that might or might not be familiar to you. So have any of you heard of EBT or SNAP benefits? It's quite common at the grocery store to see these little signs like pictured here that says EBT accepted here or benefits accepted here. But these kind of buying methods are making headway in the farmers market and some direct consumer spaces. So EBT stands for electronic benefits transfer. And it's the system that allows a SNAP participant to pay for their food items using their SNAP benefits, which can be a little confusing at first, but that's kind of the framework to think about it as is EBT is the system that allows a participant that is using the federal SNAP funding to buy their food. So in turn, it is a payment method, which is why we're plugging it in here. So to give a little back information about EBT and how it works, at the beginning of each month, funds are deposited into an individual's SNAP account, which is linked to their EBT card. So SNAP beneficiaries use their EBT card to spend their monthly allowance on SNAP eligible food items at SNAP authorized retailers. And this is why commonly you will see EBT being used in the grocery store because grocery stores are SNAP authorized retailers and they sell SNAP eligible food items. But an EBT card works similar to a debit and credit card that we use to buy things, except ours are linked to our bank accounts and theirs are linked to their SNAP account. So very similar, but we want to just talk about it because you can accept it at the farmers market and in some other capacities. So accepting EBT at the market, SNAP consumers can redeem their SNAP benefits at a terminal at the market in exchange for tokens or a paper receipt. And then they take their receipt or their tokens and use them at different vendor stands at the farmers market. And the vendor, or you producers, will be paid out for their tokens or paper receipts. And I think that varies a little bit by market. So I won't dig deep into that. But most of the time, the farmers market as a whole will be certified to accept EBT as a form of payment. So they will have a centralized point of sale terminal that the SNAP consumers can like swipe their card at, while farmers and vendors can have their own individual system. It's not as common because the terminal costs money, and most farmers markets just have a centralized system. So it's more common to see it that way. But we also have the Double Dollars program, which some of you may be familiar with. Markets that are part of the Kentucky Double Dollars program will use the kind of system that I have pictured here. The Double Dollars program removes obstacles for both consumers and producers to use and purchase things with EBT. This graphic kind of gives an idea of what happens at the market. So the market manager will swipe the EBT card at the terminal, gives the consumer the EBT tokens or the receipt, and they'll get more tokens if they're participating in the Double Dollars program because it's double dollars. It's an incentive for the EBT participants to shop at the local farmers market. But the tokens are organized by color depending on the product being purchased and given at the end to the vendors as a form of payment, and then the vendors are reimbursed for the value of the tokens at the end I'm not sure if it's of the day, so don't quote me on that, but they do get reimbursed for the tokens that are used at their stand. So let's talk about why it could be a good idea to accept EBT. Like we talked about, EBT cards look and act just like regular credit or debit cards, except for the token exchange part. So if you have your own terminal that accepts EBT cards, they will look and act just like a regular debit card. If you want it to be an individualized outlet, but as a side note, just the tokens are how they will most likely be transferred to you. But the EBT cards looking and acting just like a regular debit card kind of takes away some of the stigmatism that comes with participating in a supplemental income or like food stamps program. But nevertheless, it allows consumers to use their card or tokens at your farm stands and expands the reach of your product and sales. Accepting EBT or other supplemental nutrition assistance forms, which can be like WIC or the senior farmers market vouchers, allow consumers to spend money on fresh produce from the community rather than buying store-bought items. So it's very easy to use SNAP benefits at the grocery store. You just swipe your card, you just buy eligible items. It's really simple for consumers. But we want to keep that money in our local economy, right? So making it easier for consumers to spend their federal funding dollars keeps your money in the local economy rather than in chain type stores, but brings a benefit to you and your community and the EBT user. So what if your market doesn't accept EBT or have a centralized point of sale system for consumers to use? Well, it could be a good idea to talk to your market manager about the benefits of accepting EBT, so like keeping money in your local economy, allowing consumers to participate in your market when they might not have been able to before, things like that, because it can have a really positive impact on yourself and the community members. So there are organizations in Kentucky that have grant programs which can cover the cost of EBT accepting point of sale systems for your market. One of those is Community Farm Alliance. I put a little plug in here at the bottom right-hand corner where they have a grant program that's closed for 2022, but will open for the 2023 season at some point this year. But you can also reach out to Sharon Spencer, who works at the KDA. She's a super helpful resource for us when talking about EBT and the SNAP benefits. She can provide information about getting your market certified and might be able to provide information if you're interested on doing it individually. But I'll just pause here for a second to let you all take a picture or write down her contact information. If we send these slides out after, you could also have it that way, but she's super helpful in that department. So to recap, accepting EBT can be confusing for us at first. It was confusing to understand the whole process for me to begin with, when I was kind of thinking about stuff like this. But accepting EBT allows you to reach another set of consumers. And that's what we're really thinking about today, is how to reach another set of consumers that I might not be reaching now through payment methods or the options out there to reach other consumers and capture that. But I have this little statistic in here that's really dated, but in 2017, SNAP program participants spent $22.4 million at the farmers market. And that's over 30% of their total SNAP spending. And you can spend your SNAP benefits at any authorized SNAP retailer. So that's a lot. There's a lot of potential there. So really engage in your farmers market. If they don't already accept EBT, it could be a really cool thing for you all. So onto credit and debit cards. Like I've said a few times, it's much more common for consumers to carry credit cards or debit cards around nowadays. I have one of those teeny tiny wallets that just holds my cards because that is easy. And so a lot of consumers really feel that way, easy is cool. But there is a nice benefit to producers here because physical cash, carrying actual cash, sometimes limits how much money consumers can spend at the farmers market. But when a consumer is using a credit or debit card, they don't have as much of a ceiling or limit to their purchases. So we will dig into that a little bit in a second. But first, I wanted to drop in this resource from NerdWallet. It's just a little comparison about accepting credit and debit cards through card readers, which is the way people do it right now. Let me put the link in the chat. And I'll share a screen cap with you all in a second. Okay, so this little comparison right here. This is what just one example from the page looks like. So this screen cap is for the Square contactless and chip reader. For each card reader type, it has the style, the price, any associated fees, and a nice little pro and con chart at the bottom. So you can see this Square cardless reader doesn't swipe credit cards, and that's not a huge factor anymore because a lot of cards now have the little chip and you don't swipe them. But on the pros it does read the chip cards, digital wallets, and contactless cards. So check out that resource if you have some time. They have some really good pros and cons on there for a lot of different price options. So how to accept cards. First, you will need a mobile card reader like the one we just talked about. And if you don't already have one, but you will plug in this card reader to your smartphone, or some of them are standalone styles that you don't have to plug into your smartphone. The comparison that I linked does specify what style the card reader is, whether it plugs into your phone, things like that, for your information. But you will total up a consumer's purchases and they will swipe, insert, or tap their cards, and it can really be that easy. It can seem really overwhelming to like accept credit and debit cards, but it doesn't have to be that scary. So we want to talk about the cost of accepting cards, because there is a cost with that is associated with it. The system itself varies. The physical card reader varies from about $20 to $150, depending on the model and the carrier that you choose from. So you can find one that really fits your needs within a budget amount. But the second cost that comes with it is the swipes or transactions. So it does vary by the card reader manufacturer, but the per tap or swipe transaction fee is about 2.7%. And the key-in fees are a little more, just for like stylistic reasons, they cost more. But the comparison I linked a few slides ago has the fees disclosed for each model and carrier company type deal. So it's really transparent. You can see that information before you even are make decisions on like buying one. So you can really weigh your options. But you might be thinking about like, why accept cards if there is a fee? Like, why do I want to pay to have someone swipe their card? Well, there's a feeling of spending that consumers have. So like sometimes we wonder if using card payments just like release the brakes for a consumer spending money, or if they like step on the gas. But an MIT study shows that credit cards or debit cards have a like step on the gas kind of effect for consumers. So we know in our minds that consumers can be hesitant on spending as much money with cash, because like handling physical cash over to someone feels like heavier than just swiping your card. And these researchers found that credit cards kind of step on the gas by putting the cost of buying something like out of your mind, regardless of the price of the product. And more specifically, the study revealed that credit cards drive greater purchasing by giving us this feeling of reward, like in our brains. So this is like the feeling of happiness or like satisfaction that people get from spending money. And I think like females could relate to it by like the feeling of buying a new outfit to wear, or like men can buy new like bait and tackle items or like whatever to kind of like you like feel good when you purchase it. But because we know this, like the heaviness of cash, and like you could only have so much cash to spend at the market, and with your card, you don't feel like so constrained, and you kind of feel like a little good about using your card. We will do a little comparison. So let's say a consumer has $20 in cash to spend at the Saturday farmers market, and it's only March, so we will just be a little creative with our seasonality. Well, we know, well, we don't know, but the consumer wants to make like salad and burgers, this weekend for dinner. So they go and they buy their beef patties from like a local vendor at the farmer's market. That might be you, might not be you. And then they're coming over to your stand to like get all the fixings. Okay, so our lettuce, tomato, things like that, the good stuff. Well, you can sell them the $10 worth of toppings. Okay, so $10 on beef patties, $10 on toppings, they're capped, they can't spend any more. Like, they're done. So, but like, what if you have a like new seasoning that would be really good on their burgers, or maybe like a value added cheese product that would be great on their like Kentucky Proud burgers? Well, if they're paying with a card, they can splurge on these extra items. Kind of like when we go to the grocery store when we're hungry and buy more items than we need to. A card gives consumers the freedom and like kind of the initiative to spend more. So when circling back to the fees, like it can be a cost to accept cards, like the transaction fee, but the potential extra money consumers can spend will most likely outweigh that cost. So like here in this example, the consumer was able to spend an extra like $10 at your farm stand because they didn't have the ceiling of cash. Okay, they spent $30, but they could spend more. If you have like some cool canned items that they might want, or like, oh, you are doing a little sampling, as that's becoming a little more popular in markets as things have become safer. Like they might be inclined to purchase something else that smelled so good. Like accepting cards really can like allow consumers to spend more, which is a benefit to you as the producer. So to recap, with plastic currency being the preferred payment method of many consumers like myself in specific, accepting credit and debit cards is almost non-negotiable. Plus, with the added theory behind consumer purchasing that we just talked about, with cards, it can be a payment method for you to explore for sure if you aren't already accepting it. It has some huge benefits, but you also are free to do whatever you want. So on to the next form of payment is gift cards, which is not like super popular, but still a thing. Gift cards can be used like regular forms of payment. And the nice thing about gift cards is that you can market them to your customers. Like it's a payment type that you can sell. So let's say you have a few frequent, well, not a few, but like some frequent customers that like love your product. And let's say Mother's Day is coming up. You can suggest to those customers to like buy a gift card for their mom as a gift. And so you've sold income for yourself. So kind of like hitting two birds with one stone, like you make another sale to a customer and bring in that income while potentially creating another connection, because you would hope that that recipient of the gift card like comes back or spends more money on their card, their like credit or debit card at your booth. So why venture out here though? Like why can accepting gift cards be a benefit? Well, cards provide the opportunity for consumers to pay for the product in advance. So if you like the idea of upfront payment, kind of like the CSA is operated, this could be an option to look into. And it doesn't have to be super technical. Gift cards can be as simple as like a piece of paper kind of like a paper coupon that like has an amount written on it, and maybe you like stamped it or signed it as the producer, and like the recipient just comes back and shows it to you. Kind of like one of those punch cards that people have for like shopping rewards. But you could also venture into e-gift cards, which can be like emailed to people and have like a coupon code, or just a graphic that the consumer can show you at their next checkout. So it can be really simple, and a really simple way to generate upfront payment. So in summary, on the gift cards, they are a really nice option for those who like the upfront payment, and they're a nice way and a helpful way for consumers to spread like their love of your business around, because you would hope like you have customers that like love your farm so much that they like would buy a little $10 or $15, $20 gift card and like give to their friend, and then their friend would come in and spend their gift card and like maybe come back and be a repeat customer. So then you have like 2 repeat customers, and like it builds out from there. It's also just like a great way to bring new faces into your market channel. So let's talk about online payment platforms as the last one we'll touch on. But with the increase in consumers using platforms like Venmo or PayPal or like Cash App to pay for things, it's worth just like noting in here that that's a thing, because we're talking about accepting more than just cash. So technology has really created so many ways for people to pay for things. And the idea of platforms like Venmo or PayPal could be worth exploring. However, it might not provide like that much of an additional benefit for vendors already using a card reader. So like you want to weigh all of your options out when thinking about adding or taking things out. The downside is that there isn't really like a receipt trail, and then tracking multiple payment platforms could be overwhelming. But I did want to like mention a lot of people use Venmo or PayPal. Like I have friends that just don't even carry their card around because they have like their card on their phones in their like Apple Wallet now. And then if like they don't accept Apple Wallet, they'll just be like, can you pay for it and I'll Venmo you? And it's becoming just really popular. So like it's important for us to like stay on top of it and think about how payment methods are moving and changing with technology and the times. But the upside is that they are contactless, which a lot of people, really like value nowadays. And a lot of people, just aren't carrying like cash around. They're carrying like these electronic things. But all that to say, let's flash back to this slide here that we saw in the beginning. Tonight we talked about all of these forms of payment and the benefit that they could bring to your operation. But we need to like remember that this is really just like education for you, and we want to give you some ideas and information on exploring like accepting more than just cash. But like it can be overwhelming to like see all of these options or think about like how to expand and things like that. So like just here to provide information, and I hope you really like got some good information from this PowerPoint, but to kind of put the 3 big, points out there, we want to say like accepting cash is still like 100% acceptable. Accepting cash reaches your like non-carrying card carrying consumers, which are still a big part like of the customer base out there. However, accepting more than just cash helps you reach consumers of other payment types like cards, SNAP benefits, the other electronic platforms. But the bottom line is that like we want you to take this information and explore the options out there and like do what's best for you and what works best for you and your the consumers that you have right now. You know, like I said earlier, we don't want to alienate our like cash buying customers because if they can't spend their cash here, like and don't have cards, they will go spend their cash somewhere else, you know, and we don't want that. But we also want to accept more than just cash because that reaches another set of consumers. And like, that's what we're really trying to think about is reaching like all of our potential consumers through the payment options that like they like and that work for you and are doable for you. So that is kind of where we will end. I have a little survey that I will send out and then we can like take any questions. Okay, so this quick survey just about like the presentation, and then my contact information is here if you have any questions. There's a lot of resources on the CCD website that you all can check out. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen.
Just trying to monitor chat here, Savannah. I believe that there was only one comment made earlier, and that was on the fact that there should be a discount for those that pay cash.
Yeah.
And that's been some discussion I know we've had with local big and small vendors. In fact, there's one large local vendor that really never accepted credit cards, even though they did a tremendous amount of business. And they just simply said that it wasn't in their business model because they started out years ago without having that built-in percentage point for swaps, for full credit card swaps, whatever the going percentage is, but that's just something. And they were close enough to retirement and transitioning out of the business that they just didn't do that. They were probably the largest in the county. So it's interesting how people conceptualize, you know, that swap fee and who should be paying what, and if there should be a discount for cash. I guess you have to kind of build that in, don't you? The percentage, if there is a percentage for processing or whatnot.
Yeah, you want to think about it, you know, because it is a fee that you will incur. But it's also helpful to think like, so if I have like this group of consumers that are going to pay me in cash, okay, I'll accept cash from them, things like that. Well, I have this group of consumers that don't have cash, don't carry cash, they want to pay in card. Well, I'm missing out on the potential money that they would spend with me by not incurring that fee.
Yeah, and
So
that was
yeah.
that was a discussion we'd had too. And they said, well, we're already doing all the business we can handle. So that wasn't a motivation either. But now that's a wonderful problem to have the segment to be set and be happy where you're at with the type of business model that you have. But yeah, people and I would go out to this business and be like, oh, I forgot my cash. And well, I couldn't buy anything because I never carry cash. It's just not on my mind. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why like a big point is to like do what, you know, we want to help like give people resources and things like that, but like do what works best for you and like, you know, your customers.
Yeah.
So kind of make decisions based on that. Alan sent a question, what percentage of vendors accept plastic? I don't know off the top of my head, like how many people, how many, like at your average farmer's market, how many accept cash, but I think a lot of vendors are now these days, because like if you're looking at like your potential to bring in consumers, trying to maximize that. And then Brett said, big consideration is to weigh the additional sales against the cost of those fees. Yeah. So that's where you have to think about, like, is the time spent in this, is the fees that I am paying, this and that, like, bringing me more? Is it worth it?
And it seems like there's just a baseline expectation now that when people go places, it's shocking to them if you can't swap a card. It's surprising that you can't. And I'm one of those too, even though I was around before, credit cards were that common. But when I go someplace and I'm like, what do you mean you don't swap a card?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's a lot of people, and I think like a lot of women now carry like the smaller wallets that like we can fit in our back pockets, and those aren't going to have like holders for cash. They're just going to have little card slots, and like even the guys that have like the folding wallets with the little insert for to hold cash, like it's easier to just have your card.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people think that way. I don't want to.
Oh, I have just a sleeve. I don't carry a traditional wallet, and it has no. If I have $3 bills in there, it's too much. So yeah, my wallet does not accommodate paper money very well. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
And I think part of it is like a lot of consumers, and this isn't related to like agriculture, like the farmers market, but like are feel more safe just carrying like their ID and some important cards than like carrying, $100 like in their wallet. Because like if their wallet gets stolen or they lose it, like they just have to call their bank and like stop their card, and they're not out like usually anything besides that. Like I think carrying cash like has a risk that like people are trying to avoid now.
It seems like that's just where we are now, as far as cashless in one form or another.
Yeah.
All righty. As Savannah said, there is a link. If you guys haven't noticed it in chat, please click on that and complete that for tonight's program. Lindsay, anything else coming up as far as closing comments or events that are coming up? I know there's always stuff coming up there at the extension office. Other stuff going on?
Yeah, I will say one thing, right, is I know we have all of these recorded. So if some of you guys have missed one, you can just ask your agent, and we will probably send out sometime in the near future this whole series to them. So if you guys want to review some stuff, or if you missed one of these in this 3 series, just let your agent know and we can get that to you. But other than that, I think we're good to go, Ray.
All righty. Thank you very much. Savannah, Brett, Camille, we really appreciate you guys kind of putting this series on for us. It's something I know that you guys have done in other places in the state and other forms, other fashions, and other versions, but it's something we kind of wanted to do here in Bourbon County. And, there's other counties that have participated in the different sessions in this, but we just really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Just one thing I wanted to note, if people have more questions about this or any of the previous presentations, or if you're thinking about doing the credit card thing or you're more than just cash and you have more questions, get in contact with your agent and they can get in contact with us, and we can, answer. A lot of this stuff is interesting. It's so specific to the context that it's hard to, I think Savannah did an awesome job of giving the key considerations. But there is a follow-up conversation that might be useful. So if that's something you're interested in, talk to your agent. We can talk with them and help as best we can. So we appreciate the opportunity to share, and appreciate everything you all do out in the counties and all the producers that sign on to the series.
And do go and check out, if you've not already done so, folks, go out and check out the Center for Crop Diversification there at the University of Kentucky. Brett, I gave you guys a good plug yesterday. We had one of our newer producers that's trying to narrow down the list of enterprises that he's going to be undertaking, newer producer, and we spent 2 hours just pouring through that over the desk yesterday, from market reports to enterprise budgets to the primer, just all those links, horticultural suppliers, you name it. We just basically spent the bulk of that time using the Center for Crop Diversification as talking points. We just kind of went down, as you call it, the hot list, the lists that are featured on the front page there, the landing page. And we went down those and we talked our way through those. And he was interested in a lot of those. But yeah, folks find that your all's website very useful. And I know I personally reference that a great deal. And we just appreciate you guys having so much great information on there. Folks, if you haven't checked it out, you need to go and do that. And if that's all we have, once again, thank you guys. Have a great evening. We will have these recorded. If you need these, we can get you links. We can get you files, just whatever you need for future reference. Look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thanks so much.